Our next presenter, Glenda Rogers, is an award-winning, internationally published photojournalist. She is magna cum laude graduate from Southern Methodist U, SMU to some of you. That's a lot of U's for one U. But who has done her graduate work at Dallas Theological Seminary and has earned her creative writing degree from KSU, Kentucky, Kansas?
Kennesaw.
Ah, okay. She has traveled to over 40 countries, lived in most of the regions, being thrown out of half of them.
Yeah, we've been thrown out.
Most of the regions of the United States. She makes Longmont, Colorado her home with her 3 dogs and dashingly handsome husband of 30 years. Asshole.
The road to bio.
Yeah. We now pause for a minute for all of us to turn and look at handsome husband. Her current work is bringing a little more spice to her life. What's this thing, handsome husband? Now we're talking spice and nuts. Okay. While driving her a little nuts. Her presentation tonight is The Spice of Life. Glenda.
Hi. Today I thought that I would pepper you with a little history of spice and maybe curry a little bit of your favor by telling you a little bit about nutmeg. Sorry, I go for the cheap and easy puns. I'm cheap and easy. Back before the Ottoman Empire of the 1400s, there were 2 main spice routes from Europe over to India and over to where it says Java over there. One, it was the Silk Road, the red. The blue was a land and sea route that would take them into the Indian Ocean. And the land and sea route would take about a year. Well, after the Ottoman Empire, Europe needed a new way to get spices. So the first was Portugal with Vasco da Gama, and that's the blue. He went around the Cape of Good Hope into the Spice Islands, followed by Magellan, who circumnavigated the world and came to the Spice Islands that way. Well, the Dutch got in on things, and they decided that they would actually spread the cost out on these trips. So they formed the Dutch East India Company. The reason why is because these trips were 3 to 4 years long. 4 out of 5 ships would be lost. 2 out of 3 men would be killed. So then England got in with the East India Company because they realized that they could get 10 pounds of nutmeg in the Spice Islands for 1 English penny. And then they would sell it in London for 2 pounds, 10 pence. So big markup. That began the big spice race. And these islands became the prize. And most specifically, the Band Islands. You can see it's a tiny little green speck, kind of towards the middle. And in the Band Islands, you could say that there was a run on run. Run is 2 square miles filled with nothing but nutmeg trees. The Dutch and the English fought over it. The Dutch traded a little island called New Amsterdam for run. You all might know it as Manhattan. Well, why were these spices so important? Well, European wealth really loved their lavish banquets. And the more exotic the food, the spicier the food, the wealthier they were perceived to be. And for them, wealth meant power. The other reason is they thought that spices would ward off the plague. This is a plague doctor in his attire for healing the sick. And that crazy little beak-like mask would be filled with spices because he thought that it would protect him from the plague. He wasn't the only one who got in on it, though. The wealthy did as well. This is a very wealthy woman, and you can see she has a pomander here. That pomander would be filled with nutmeg. And she'd wear it about her waist, or she'd wear it about her neck. And at that period of history, 14 to 1700s, the nutmeg was worth more than the gold or the silver. Now, thanks to Captain Bligh and terraforming, nutmeg can be found from Grenada in the Caribbean to Indonesia. It grows to 65 feet. It'll live for 100 years and produce fruit for all but 8 of those years. So they're pretty amazing. These are the stages of nutmeg. This one here on the left is an unripened nutmeg. When it ripens, it splits open on its own, and it reveals 2 spices that we get from it. The red is the mace, or the mace blade. The brown is the nutmeg. Here you can see them on the tree, ripened and unripened. The harvester needs to come in and pick that immediately, because as soon as it drops to the ground, it starts losing value. So he'll come in, he'll separate the pulp, that goes in for making jams and jellies, and he'll separate the mace from the nutmeg. Here you can see at the processing plant, he brings in the nutmegs, they're put on this screen. The processor in the navy blue actually culls out all the dust and debris, bags them, weighs them, pays the harvester. The harvester also brings in the mace. And this is mace. And this will actually command quite a high price because it's a great color. They grade it by color, and then it's sent into boxes for 4 months where it actually matures to a golden yellow. The nutmeg then actually goes on to the second floor, and it's spread out on these long drying racks that take up almost all of the second floor. Processors come in with large rakes, and they rake these nutmegs over a period of 4 weeks to aerate them and help them to dry. But they need to know when they started. So they chalk a date on the front of these bins so that they know when to check them. And so what they'll end up doing is after 4 weeks, they'll start shaking these nutmegs to make sure that they rattle. When they rattle, they're dry. So from the second floor down to the first floor, they go through big grinders. And they're separated by women who sit on these benches, the shell, they're cracked and shelled. And their women are paid piecemeal. So the nutmeg drops into chutes, down into these boxes down here into bags, and they're paid by the pound. Then it goes through 2 grading processes. First, they're put in water. The ones that sink have a higher oil content, so they will be used for food consumption. The ones that float are for medicinal purposes, so they will use those in toothpaste and cosmetics and pain reliever. The second grading process is actually by size. The ones that drop through the holes will go to buyers who will grind them. The ones that stay on top will go to buyers who will keep them whole and sell them for food consumption. And that, in a nutshell, is nutmeg.
That's probably the nuttiest presentation we've ever had. I kid you not.
I really want some eggnog.
I want some eggnog now. Barkeep, more eggnog. All right. Listen, when we're done here tonight, if you don't walk out a smarter, wiser person, we shouldn't have let you in. Okay?